Hey, welcome to the new video of Angular. So in this video, we are going to see what are components in general and how we can create components in Angular. So as you all know, basically what is components? It is a smaller piece of a big product, right? So let me give you an example. Like whenever we talk about any car, right? So car is a big piece or a product which is there, and this is created by combining each and every smaller or major components, right? So like we have roof, we have windshield, and all these things, if those are combined together, it creates a car. So in software industry or in software term as well, every web application is created using component, right? So there are smaller pieces which gets combined into a bigger piece. So let's see an example in terms of any application, what are components. So if you see this LinkedIn application here, this header, right, which is there on the top, this is called as a component. And likewise we have this component as well, where the user is able to write a post, right? And likewise we have this uh, column at right side also, and similarly we have at left side also. So in the middle of this you can see there is a post component, right? If you see this particular box, so if you see the pattern, it is getting repeated in as we scroll down. So the entire component or that box is same, however the content inside this particular part is getting changed. So this is how we can reuse a component in Angular. So we can create a component, and likewise we can reuse for multiple posts or multiple data. So create that component once, and similarly you can reuse to render different data. Here also if you see, we have different buttons, right? Home button, my network, jobs, messaging, notifications. So this is not something like it is like created it is not something like every button is created separately. It is a one core component which is a button component, and inside that different icons and functionalities are passed. So talking about the home component, it has home icon, while in network it has different icon, the label is different, and functionality is different. So creating a box is a component, and we can reuse that particular component as we build the application. So let's see in Angular how we can create a component. So let me go to the project and let me just clear this up. So to create a component, we have a command which we need to put, which is ng generate component, and then we need to give here the component name. So let me give it as header here, right? I want to generate a header component. If I click on enter, you will see here, yeah, inside this app you will see this header component is created, right? So similar to app component we had seen, there were multiple pieces, right? There was one file of css, one file of html, and it was having app.spec.ts and then this app.ts. So all of these four files are considered as like basically one component, right? And here when we create a header component, all of these files are generated by default by this command, and here is that component which is created here, right? So if you just go to this header file, here it also we have, so if you just go to this header.ts file, you can see all of those things which were present inside this app.ts, right? Here also we were having this component decorator, and inside that selector, imports, template, and style. So similarly for header as well, we have all this setup ready, and here we can build our own custom things, whatever the functions, variables you want to create. And similarly we have html, it has given here a default text which says header works, and we have a css file as well. So this is one command which we can use to generate the component, and similarly we have a shorthand also for this which says ng, and we need to type g, which is for generate, and then c for component, and then the component name. Maybe if I give it as header 2, so this is also, it will work and it will create the component. So likewise we have got this header to component as well. So let me delete this quickly as we don't want that. Okay, so let's talk about what is standalone component. So this standalone component term is introduced in Angular. It is introduced post Angular 14 versions, right? So if you talk about uh, the Angular versions which are before or previous to Angular 14 versions. So there was no term called as standalone component, and the process of designing or uh, starting the component, right here, if you see this decorator and all of this process, or how the structure of any component looks like, this four whiles, that was completely different. But since Angular 14, this standalone component, which is a new way of creating a component where the structure and everything is different, and these are more flexible or lightweight compared to the previous component, which makes the application performance pretty faster and more efficient. So this is the standalone component which we have created, and we don't need to specify whether we are going to create a standalone component or not. Whenever we create any component here, by default it is a standalone component, and this is available in Angular 20, where by default it creates the standalone component. So one of the basic, or one of the important feature which standalone component provides is it has the capability of importing other components as well. So if you see this header, we have this array, and in that header we can import some different components as well. So this is one of the major characteristics of or one of the important characteristic of a standalone component. As I said, we can import one component into another component in case of a standalone component. So here we will see we have created this header component which has this HTML which says just a header works, and it has the respective CSS file and also this header.ts. So if I want to show or display this particular component on UI, how to do that, right? Let's see. So here we have this app component. Let's go to app.ts. So here if you see we have this imports, and in this we can import that particular thing or component that we have created into this, right? So if you see we have imported this header from this header.ts file. So this particular component, which is a header component, it's now accessible in app component as well. And how to display this particular header component is going into this app.html. So here we can just write a tag which says header, and let's close this up, and here this is right. So now if you see we have imported. So now if you see we have imported a header component inside a app component, right? So whatever we do, it's in the app component, and component has this header component uh, details. So if we just run this particular project using npm start, let's do that. Okay, I have already started this here. Let me just see here if I can just quickly open that localhost 200. Oh, it has some error. What is that? I think I've added some random text which is causing that issue. Where it is that app.html. Okay, let's go here. So here we need to give app.header, right? So why I'm giving this app.header? Because in this particular HTML, right, whatever this component we have created, which is a header component, the selector for this particular component is app-header. So if I want to show this particular header component on this particular HTML, right, app.html, then I need to mention this selector. Yeah, similarly we have done this thing in case of index.html as also, right, where whatever the selector of this app, right, which was app root, that was mentioned here in this index.html. So that's why whatever the content which was there inside the app component, that was rendered at this part. So similarly, if I want to render that part here in this app component, right, which is this, I can just put the root of that, which is a selector, and this is how the component will look like. So let's go to the screen and see if that works. Yeah, so if you see this things, right, header, we have this part which is in the app dot, or we can say in the app component, which is a root component, and here this is how the header we have got. So if I just change here anything on this header, right, if I just go here and write here as maybe this one, right, this is a header, and save it, so this is how it will be reflected. So now if you see we have imported a header component inside the app component, right? So in the app.html we have imported this header component. So if you see every component is linked with each other, right? So even if you take this example of LinkedIn, here this white background, which you can say that we can consider as a parent or app component, right? And and on the top of app component we have different child component. One is like this header, one is this particular post component where we can see all the post. And if we just specifically zoom into this header component as well, we have different multiple components. Maybe the search bar is also one component. There are different buttons. So all of these components which we see on a screen are all together compiled. They are nested inside each other or inside one another, and that is how this entire web application page we can see on the screen. So similarly, in this case also we can see this relation, right, where the app component where we have imported a header component, that is a parent, and this is a child of it where we have imported. So similarly, I can import multiple components in header components as well, right? Here we can create few more components, maybe button, and in that in this header component we can import that button component, and likewise we can render the same thing here as well, whatever we want to do. So everything's so whatever the things or whatever the component that are nested, all are compiled together into app.html, right, finally. And this final app.html component which is there, right, which has this selector app.app-root, this is what it is served to this index.html, and we can see a complete web page where we can see every component that we have added. So let me just show you one example which I had taken to explain this in a better way. So we have this index.html. So this index.html have this app root, which is the app component, and inside the app root we have multiple components, maybe header, main, footer. So this is how the tree is formed, like a nested structure, as simple as that, and all drills down or like all goes to top, which is in the index.html. This is how we see a Angular app here. So I hope we are good with this. I'm able to explain. So if you are having any questions, you can just add a comment into this video. I will try to answer that. Yeah, and the feedback is always welcomed. So see you in the next video, guys. Thank you.